Alrighty, fight fans, what's up? Welcome back to Pure Fight Radio. I am Brent Cristelli, and I'm here with my good friend Manny David. And we've also got a special guest today. If you remember him from our UFC 209 preview, we got our man Evan Wheeler on the show. Once again, hailing from Denver, Colorado. Go ahead and say what's up, Evan.
What's going on, guys? Great to be back with you again for a second time. And man, what a card we got here to talk about. A ton of stuff to dig into here for UFC 211. And again, just thrilled to be back here with you guys.
Fantastic. Right. And Manny, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. This is a card that I think that goes without saying for most of us is going to be a good one. Like I can't imagine this being a bad card. I'm taking a look at the lineup here. Like, I feel like the matchmaking is on point. You got Miocic versus Dos Santos in a rematch for the title. You have Jędrzejczyk versus Andrade. Like, there's never a boring JJ fight. You have Maia versus Masvidal. That could be boring. Who knows? Edgar versus Rodriguez. That's going to be an interesting battle of spacing. You got Yoko versus Brent replacing Cejudo versus Pettis on the main card. That will kick off the main card. So it's nice to see Dave Branch in the UFC again. Although against a very, destructive kickboxer in Christoph Yoko. But FX card has a nice fight headlining it too. Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier might be fight of the night, right? So we'll see. Can't wait, guys. Feel pretty good about this one.
Oh, absolutely. Let's knock on wood. Let's hopefully nobody misses weight, nobody gets dehydrated, i.e. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Hopefully we don't have another towel incident like UFC 210 with Mr. Daniel Cormier. Let's just hope everyone weighs in on time, early, and no one has to pull out. Nobody gets injured walking to the cage. Let's just pray for that, because we've already lost one fight. And luckily, me and Evan were talking about it before we started the podcast, that was probably the least of the good fights to lose. So happy that if we were losing anything, it was Cejudo and Pettis. Unfortunate that we lost it, but
Cejudo Pettis, like, that would be like, someone was getting wrestle-fitched, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
For the fights that we could have lost, I'm not too mad that that's the one that we did lose. With that being said, let's hope we don't lose any more. Let's hope the MMA gods are good to us, and we will have some fantastic fights on Saturday night. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off with this main event. So we've got Stipe Miocic trying to defend his title for a second time in a rematch against Junior Dos Santos. We all saw the first fight. JDS took a unanimous decision, and I think all three of us thought it was pretty clear-cut the first fight that JDS did enough to win at least 3 rounds. It's been a little while since I've watched the fight. I don't know. Have you guys watched the fight recently?
Nope. I had no reason to.
I actually just rewatched it earlier this week just because I enjoyed the fight so much. And I think it's a clear, you clearly got to score the fight for JDS. It's we were talking about this earlier. It's a clear 3-2 for him.
If anyone won, it was him.
Yeah, exactly. It was clearly in his favor. You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Honestly, it was a fairly amazing fight for heavyweight division, because we seldom see that stuff in heavyweight division. I feel like it's been a little bit more exciting since I guess Mark Hunt got good again, because he's been fairly exciting for the heavyweights. But it's weird to see a lot of these guys being able to go 3-5 rounds strong. That's very comforting, because when we, quote unquote, used to be obsessed with MMA in its prime, us three at one point, we would always get, we were heavyweight was almost like the bathroom break for us sometimes. If we couldn't think of, if we couldn't read a finish or predict one, we'd be like, whatever about it.
Yeah, because, we knew the fight, if there wasn't going to be a finish or a submission or anything like that, we knew the fight was likely going to be boring, because we've got two guys who are big and close to 265 pounds, sometimes heavier if they cut to 265.
With no win condition.
Exactly. And after the first round, it slows down and it gets slower and slower and it gets really boring. So the heavyweight division has picked up, thankfully, over the years, and it is very competitive now, and we do appreciate it. And JDS is a number 4 contender, so kind of not. I'm not surprised that he did get the title shot just because of the situation that's happening at heavyweight. You've got Alistair Overeem, who Stipe Miocic just knocked out.
Blundered.
You've got Fabricio Verdum, who Stipe Miocic knocked out in May, so he's not going to get a title shot. Cain Velasquez can't get healthy right now, and so Junior Dos Santos is next up in line. Aside from those two, he has come off the most impressive victory of recent. He defeated Ben Rothwell, and that was like a year ago, I think now. But, here we are today. He's got his title shot. He's always up in the title mix in heavyweight. Actually, his fight against Rothwell was over a year ago now.
Yep.
So, he's back. He's always right up in the title mix. He was kind of falling off a little bit. It seems like he's kind of found his groove again, judging from his fight last year. And it's going to be interesting to see. There could be maybe a little bit of ring rust for JDS. Maybe the rest was good for him. He might have needed the rest. Who knows? But it seems like JDS has picked up from where he left off and might even be a little bit more patient, more technical now. And his fight with Rothwell, he went 5 rounds, no problem, with a breeze, and looked outstanding doing it. I think he took all 5 rounds from my memory. Is that right?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, I think he at least took 4 of the 5 for sure. It was a dominant win for him.
Absolutely, and that was a fight a lot of people thought Ben Rothwell was going to come in and win because Dos Santos hadn't been looking very good. So
yeah,
Dos Santos,
one fight versus Overeem's a world beater when he wants to be.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's really unfair for people to have said in their prediction of JDS Rothwell, because let's be real, Rothwell because people are using the MMA math, to be honest.
That's never a smart thing to do.
With to a certain extent, I feel like that's what was happening there.
Probably.
And I don't think that was fair. But
another thing too, like I was saying, a lot of people, you're only as good as your last fight, and JDS hadn't looked very good in his last fight, and Rothwell had been, I think, mowing dudes down. So
yeah,
there's a lot of justification behind people going with Rothwell over JDS. In hindsight, if you look at the two skill sets and look at the matched up against each other, you would pick JDS all day long. But because of what was happening in that period of time, people were going with Rothwell.
Yeah, he choked out Barnett, which is unheard of, and then he before
and he
that
knocked out Overeem too.
Yeah, that's what I mean with the MMA math. So it's just at the end of the day, something had to have broke for those wins to have happened for Ben Rothwell. He literally caught dudes on sleeping on bad nights, which is awful. But that's why we are so kind of indifferent to the heavyweight division to a certain extent, because of how random it is, because of the fact that they don't fight often enough. And it honestly looks like, skill set wise, I know they're big and stuff, sometimes it doesn't feel like doesn't feel like they're as dominant, because they don't fight often enough, and they could actually, you can get knocked out by one punch, likelier here than any other division.
Absolutely.
So it's just it's just I don't think we've ever had a really dominant heavyweight champion in the UFC.
Cain Velasquez is probably the closest thing to it. And
how many times has he defended it?
I think he defended it three times or so, but that's a lot for heavyweight, especially recent. He
defended versus Bigfoot Silva and JDS.
Yeah, it's not the best resume in the world.
I know. But it seems, the way the title is just kind of handed off, JDS won it. Cain won it from Brock Lesnar. Mm-hmm. And then Cain lost his first fight to JDS. JDS defended it once against Mir. Then he lost to Cain.
I guess what I'm trying to say is it feels like it's a part-time division.
Basically. Right. You could almost make an argument. Stipe is... if Stipe wins this fight, he's got the same amount of title defenses that Cain has. So,
yeah. And it feels like Stipe hasn't held it for that long.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah,
it's been a year.
Yeah, real talk though, as far as breaking this fight down, I think Stipe has to wrestle. Why not? JDS has stellar takedown defense, but if JDS is smart, he's going to be popping a jab in his face, just controlling spacing, not letting Stipe come over the top, pivot properly, that kind of thing. And I think Stipe's head movement and just striking defense isn't great, especially from what we saw in the Overeem bout. So, like, I'm literally thinking that you can't let JDS get into his groove early, or you can't let him come in there and just steamroll you like he's done in the past, like 5 years ago, JDS. But if JDS is out here to win 5 rounds and shake your takedowns off, you better know how to set them up. If not, you better come in here with better boxing skills than you've shown in the past. Because I just don't think they're good enough to beat JDS in 5 rounds. I'm literally thinking he has to like be aggressive, knock dude out, and hopefully he doesn't get counterpunched. But I like Stipe. I just, on paper, like, we have to say that JDS is the better boxer, right? From what we saw in their last fight, what we saw in their last fight, and what JDS has done to a bigger resume of opponents with his boxing, without question, yeah. Like, and if that's like the primary driver for both of these guys offensively, and he has takedown defense, I don't think this is going to work out for Stipe. But what Stipe has over JDS, if anything, or any other heavyweight opponent, is he just wants it more than anyone else. And he literally has the resilience to basically mentally fight through anything that anyone dishes out at him. And that is disheartening, especially for heavyweights, because they're used to a 1 or 2 shots just finishing people. But Stipe is like, I'm going to walk through this, and I'm going to knock you out after you're shook at that. So I don't think that happens to JDS, though. JDS has been fighting super safe lately, or in that last fight versus Rothwell. I think he tries to do more of the same, and if not, knock him out. So I got JDS.
All right.
And I'm not even a JDS fanboy. That's just how I see it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, so what round you got him in?
I got him, I'd say the 3rd or later, if not decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so 3rd round TKO or later or decision for Manny, for JDS to become, once again, the UFC heavyweight champion. Evan, go ahead and break this fight down for me. You watched the fight recently. What you got?
Man, a lot of what Manny said was just so on point there. The first fight, I mean, we all can agree it was an amazing fight. It was a war. Both these guys beat the hell out of each other for 25 minutes. And it was one of the best displays, I think, of boxing that we've seen in MMA in recent years, primarily in the heavyweight division. But a lot of what Manny was saying rings true looking back on that first fight is JDS is clearly the superior boxer here of the two, and he showcased that quite a bit in the first fight by just being craftier. I mean, at times he was throwing the Philly shell out of Stipe and switching stances and attacking him with the jab at different levels. And I thought JDS did such a brilliant job in the first fight of really attacking the body against Stipe. He hit him with left hooks and right hooks to the body, which really wore down on Miocic, who gassed in that 4th and 5th round. And that's kind of when Junior turned it up on him. But, Stipe definitely did a lot of things well. He caught JDS quite frequently off the exits in that fight with that straight right hand. And he did take him down in I think it was the 3rd round with a double leg takedown.
Yep.
But yeah, one time. I think it was one time in the 3rd round with a double leg takedown off the cage. But Stipe did a poor job that whole first fight. He shot way too many times from a distance against JDS, as Manny pointed out. JDS's takedown offense is just so phenomenal. He has great hips. He's so great at pivoting off the cage and getting his back off the cage. He did a great job of never letting Miocic control him as well. Miocic had poor head positioning and did a poor job of always letting JDS control his left bicep when they were kind of infighting there in the clinch. So there's a lot of things that I think Miocic can take from that first fight and adjust to, whereas JDS, like Manny said, it's pretty simple for him, man. Put that jab in his face, switch stances, hit him with that Philly shell again. Don't throw so many overhand rights. Rely a little more on that left hook, work the body, and box him up. And JDS should, have a lot of success. But I think Miocic, what you're going to see from him in this fight is, for one, he's not going to gas as early and as badly, I think, in this rematch. I think his cardio and his conditioning is going to be more on point. And I think he's not going to shoot in as much from a distance. He's really going to make it a point to tie up JDS, get him in the clinch, wear him down, utilize some dirty boxing, and then try to take him down off the cage more, where I think he can have at least some more success getting takedowns and then get on top of JDS, wear him down. And I think he can still land good shots against JDS in the pocket. JDS, if he once again commits heavy to the body with those hooks, and he stands in the pocket off those exits with his hands down because he's going to the body, Stipe is going to have plenty of opportunities to once again catch him with that right hand off the exits. So it's a really close fight, man. I don't think there's a wrong answer here, but every time I doubt Stipe Miocic, he just makes me look like an idiot. So I'm going to take Stipe Miocic here. I'm going to say 4th or 5th round TKO for him. I think he's just going to be able to he's going to really make it a point to tie JDS up, get him in that clinch, and try to wrestle him off the cage. And I think his conditioning will be on point this time. And watch for him to catch JDS frequently with that right hand off exits from within the pocket. Nonetheless, incredible rematch. So much respect for both these guys, and I really can't wait for round 6 to start on Saturday night. Really looking forward to this one.
All right, fantastic. So we got 1 pick for Stipe, we got 1 pick for JDS.
Actually, before you begin your breakdown, bro, see, okay, no disrespect to Stipe at all. Like, he's dope. He's very good at everything. Jack of all trades, master of none. But his mental strength is on point, and yeah, he has a knack of finding ways to win. But this is me being slightly conspiracy theorist or theory fighter predictor. A part of me feels like Daniel Cormier could come back into the division and even beat Stipe Miocic. That's how just okay I think he is.
Well, DC beat every heavyweight he faced.
See, that's what I'm saying
too. So yeah. I definitely think he could.
I think a lot of what you're saying, though, Manny, has to go back to like what we were saying about the heavyweight division earlier. It's like it's so wide open, man. It's because you have this champion like Miocic at the top, who, like you said, is he has a knack for winning, but he's not one of these guys that's going to blow you out of the water in any area of the game, Yeah. And then you have these Renaissance men like Mark Hunt and for a time there Frank Mir and Ben Rothwell and all these guys that are still old, that are still competing, and then there's like kind of this new guard, and you got Cain Velasquez out there. It's like, will he get healthy? Sagano still staying relevant, and Overeem. It's this division it's such a clusterfuck, but it's gotten to the point where it's a fun clusterfuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fun clusterfuck, but at the same time, like, there are dudes who are totally elite at what they do that can expose him. I hope that's Sagano this time. That being said, like, there's a number of guys I could see do it, which is sad because they haven't. I mean, Overeem's one of those guys, and he just blundered.
I know. But I think Overeem's just one of those guys who always just. It's like he can be the heavyweight champion. He can be the dominant heavyweight champion. He can defend the title. He has the talent to beat everybody. He just doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So he was a few punches away from knocking out Stipe in their first fight if he didn't drop down for a guillotine. Just a few punches away. Even if he did,
he shouldn't have been an idiot about the guillotine.
Exactly, which he was. So he crumbles in those high pressure moments, and he does stupid things, and yeah. So unfortunately, that's why Overeem's not where he should be. Plus, he of course took a lot of steroids. Not with USADA. Even when USADA came in, he's done very well. So he's honestly kind of been better since USADA came in, which is surprising. But yeah, so we got 1 pick for Stipe, we've got 1 pick for JDS. I think both of y'all made some fantastic points. I think both of y'all are right. I think this is a pick'em fight 100% entirely. And I think you could, like I said, you can make an argument for either of these guys 100%. And leading up to this week before we did this preview show, I was kind of going back and forth ever since this fight was announced. I just kind of put it in the back of my mind. I'm like, all right, that's a great fight. I don't know who's going to win, but that's an awesome fight. And now that I'm really thinking about it, it's so tough. It's so tough. But when you break it down, like you said in their first fight, once again, clear-cut victory in my opinion for JDS. The fight was back in 2014, so we're about 2.5 years past that mark right now in May of 2017. So a lot's changed since then. Stipe has gone on a roll. He defeated Andrei Arlovski by first round KO. And then in 2016, he defeated Andrei Arlovski. Then he knocked out Fabricio Verdun. Then he knocked out Alistair Overeem all in the first round. And he's basically been on a roll since then. But like you guys said, he's really not great at anything. He's a good boxer. He's a good wrestler. He's a good grappler, and he does possess a lot of power in his hands. But the thing he possesses over everybody else is the will and the ability to keep going when the going gets tough. And he really wants to win. He wants to be the champ. He wants to win these fights, and he's really going out there and putting all of his effort into it, which a lot of guys with the talent don't come out and do. For instance, Alistair Overeem. If Alistair Overeem wanted it as much as Stipe Miocic did in their first fight, he probably would have won the fight. With that being said, going into this fight, JDS hasn't fought in a while, but looking at the two, skill-wise, JDS is the more technical boxer. JDS, in his last fight, was a lot more patient, was a lot more technical, wasn't throwing the overhand right nearly as much. Was very patient, picking his shots, doing a fantastic job of creating distance, and landed the jab to the body, into the face. He landed a few really good push kicks to Ben Rothwell, and knocked him down with the push kick in that fight. And he looked the best he's looked since he won the title initially. And I think JDS is probably in the best state of mind right now that he's been since he was the champion. So that's really good going into this fight, especially against a guy with the mindset like Stipe, who's always going in there to win fights. But when I look at the two and compare them, Stipe's last fight, he really showed his lack of striking defense. He holds his hands down, he holds his chin up a lot, and I think JDS can pick him apart with a jab. He can keep him at the distance, land a lot of jabs, put combinations together. The blueprint to beat JDS is out there, and Cain Velasquez put that blueprint out there. But the thing is, can Stipe do that? I don't know. I don't think he has the cardio to do that. Can he put JDS up against the cage and wear him down? That's a very good game plan. But that could wear Stipe out at the same time. And we saw in their first fight, JDS probably actually outlasted Stipe in their first fight. And that's one of the reasons he won the decision. And Stipe's wins, against Andre Arlovski, he won in 50 seconds. Andre Arlovski's always been known for being very chinny, and Stipe exposed that. Fabricio Verdum in their fight, Fabricio got very careless in their fight, and he was throwing a lot of kicks to the body. He was mixing it up very well. He was out kickboxing Stipe, and then he got very careless and started charging forward with those dumb combinations, just lunging forward, throwing punches, leaving his chin out in the air. And Stipe was like, all right, this is a gift, and he knocked him out. And then in the Alistair Overeem fight, once again, Overeem had the fight and then lost it. So if Junior Dos Santos comes with the right game plan, the right mindset, the right patience, I do think he's going to get the job done. And Stipe can be knocked out. Junior Dos Santos can as well. Junior has been rocked before. But I see Junior Dos Santos winning this fight. I see him outboxing Stipe. I see him landing the better shots. He's quicker than Stipe. He's got great takedown defense, and I do think he gets the job done. If Stipe applies the right game plan, he might be able to get the job done. But I think JDS is gonna, I think he's gonna basically deflect all of that. He's gonna do a really good job, and he's got a great mind state. Like I said, he looked fantastic in his last fight. I think he's gonna go out there, be very patient, land combinations, and eventually he's gonna land the right punch on Stipe and put him down. I think he's gonna put him down in the second round. I got JDS second round TKO.
I think part of what we're saying collectively is that if JDS wants to win this fight, he will.
Yes.
But I mean, like, on the off chance, and it seems so much a bigger off chance lately that Stipe will find that chance to win, like, that chance gets bigger and bigger as every fight goes on with his defenses and just W's in general, because he keeps finding these ways to win, and more often than not it's just because of a mishap on the opponent,
which could very well happen too, because I mean, JDS hasn't really been in the spotlight like this in a while too. So
yeah,
I mean, while he has had the right mind state heading into this fight, you don't know what's going to happen on fight night. He could go in there and just start throwing overhand rights and start looking for the finish right away, and Stipe could capitalize on it. So if Stipe fights smart, he could win. And Stipe, like you said, has been getting the job done recently.
Somehow.
But if JDS, somehow, some way, he's been finding a way. And if JDS is smart about it and does the things that he needs to do, I do think he can win this fight, and I do think he will. But that's not to discredit Stipe or count him out whatsoever, because he is very much capable of winning this fight at any moment.
We're picking him based on tools.
Yes.
But, I could very well see what Evan said, though. Like,
absolutely
could be like if Stipe makes it dirty somehow, closes the distance to where like he's not getting picked apart on the outside, then yeah, who knows? But we got.
It's all about believing, man. Keep them believing.
Oh yeah, you know what?
Vibes.
Yeah, Ohio is putting in that work. Indians made the World Series. Cavaliers might win the NBA championship again. We have Miocic in here putting in work. Browns still suck, but hey, it is what it is.
Cody Garbrandt.
Cody Garbrandt. There you go. But yeah, okay. So co-main event, which could be just a main event in itself, like on a different card. Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Jéssica Andrade, women's strawweight championship match. Of course, Joanna's looking to defend for like the 80th time. Like, let's be real. Like, she's how many times? Let's see.
She's so dope.
She's defended it 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and like we're talking some of the best in the division. Like, undoubtedly. Like Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Claudia Gadelha in her last 2 fights, and a lot of people saw Claudia as the biggest threat because of how close their initial fight was. But I'm looking at this fight with Jéssica Andrade, and I'm like, was Jéssica better at? Okay, she has a good guillotine. Great. How does she get into that position in the first place? Like. Oh, man, I honestly see Jéssica getting comboed to death. But that's just me. I think Joanna does make her crack. We're talking... Like, if Liz Carmouche can TKO her, I'm thinking Joanna could too. Just saying. So, I know different types of fighter, but, Joanna's just going to mix up on the feet and make sure that she spaces well, pivots properly, moves away from Jessica's power hand, make sure Jéssica doesn't set up some sort of clinch or takedown attempt, and that's pretty much it. So I got JJ for the win. I'm going to say she gets a late finish. What about you guys?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Jędrzejczyk as well. Pretty much, I'm on the exact same page as Manny. Like, I have a lot of respect for Jéssica Andrade, and she hits hard. She has a lot of power. She's a great body puncher, and if she can get Jędrzejczyk to fight her in a phone booth, it'll definitely help her chances. And like Manny said, if she can push her to the cage, get her up against the cage, try to take her down from that position, the clinch position there, and kind of overpower, out muscle, so to say, Jędrzejczyk, kind of like Gadelha did. I could see Andrade having some success, but I think this is really a showcase fight for Jędrzejczyk. She's got the reach advantage here. Technically, I think she's in another planet in terms of her striking game, and I think she'll do a great job of another universe. There you go. And I think she'll do a great job of really controlling the range, not only with her reach advantage, but with her excellent jab, her excellent teep kick. She's got great takedown defense, whether it's from a distance, she'll control your head and elbow you to death, or you try to take her down up against the cage, she'll wear you out there with elbows and has that great wide stance. And like Manny says, I think she's going to combo Andrade to death and really light her up in the pocket with angles, and then just control that range with the reach and the teep kick and the jab. And I also have her by a stoppage. I'll go late third, early fourth round TKO for Joanna Jędrzejczyk to get her 5th title defense.
Okay, BC MVP 11.
Alrighty, here we go. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I don't know what else to say. You guys kind of said it all. I think Jéssica Andrade is she's very talented. She's a good grappler. She punches very hard, and like Evan said, if the fight's in a phone booth and she can make it in a phone booth, make it a dirty fight, Joanna could be in trouble. And the places where Joanna struggled are with powered punchers and people who can close the distance and take her down, get her in the clinch. But Joanna also beats those people. Joanna finds a way to, like Claudia Gadelha.
She just doesn't look as clean doing it.
No, no, not at all.
That's just it. But at the same time, I think Gadelha is a better fighter than Andrade.
Yeah, I think so too. I think she does everything that
Andrade does better.
Yeah, I do think Andrade probably has more power.
That's it.
And a guillotine. Yeah, she does. And who knows? I mean, Joanna got caught in her last fight, and she did get caught a couple times against Claudia. So who knows? You never know. I mean, this could be a shocker. This could be a shocker fight.
Those are also like rematches.
They're better. Yeah, that's true.
At the same time.
Yeah. And I do
she's
think,
known Carolina since they were kids.
Yeah.
And obviously with Gadella, that was her like legacy rival in the UFC. So still is. So I kind of look at those. I'm like, okay, I expected those two girls to do their best, to do the best versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. It just makes sense.
Right.
You know, there's so much history with KK, and there's so much history with Gadella. So I'm like, okay, but at the same
time, and like you said, those two are better fighters in my opinion than Andrade as well.
And they know her, yeah. So
that's two.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, like I said, Andrade has a chance. She has a puncher's chance and a guillotine's chance. If she can somehow find a way to get inside and land a
chance,
basically, if she can find a way to get inside and land a huge punch on Joanna and really rock her, and then find a way to snatch up a guillotine, who knows? Early in the fight, but that's the most dangerous Jéssica's going to be. Aside from that, Joanna's going to keep her distance. Joanna's taller. She's got the big reach advantage, and she is worlds, like you guys said, in a different universe in terms of technical striking. And I think she's going to put on a clinic against Andrade. And I think exactly like you guys said, I feel a late finish coming, probably third round. I think she's going to piece her up through the first two rounds. She's going to put on a clinic. She's going to show how good she is. And in the third round, she's going to put it on and just finish her. And then Joanna's gonna die. I think this is gonna be Joanna's coming out party. Hopefully,
I think a lot of what we're saying is also based on her athleticism. Yes. We're talking like the most agile fighter in the game.
One of the fastest fighters in the game too,
without a doubt. Like her and her and Demetrius, I guess. I mean, as far as like, they're so much more athletic than the rest of the competition in their division.
They are.
Isn't this Jędrzejczyk's first camp with ATT as well? It'll be interesting to see, like...
Yeah, and I can't see how that goes worse.
I don't see how that works against her,
yeah.
Yeah, like, no question. I was just saying that's another factor, to consider. She's probably going to be even better,
It's going to be a great fit, being able to work out with... I know there's not a whole lot of talent at ATT that are around her weight class, men or women. But to be able to work out with some heavy hitters there, it's probably invaluable to her, seeing as she's fighting someone who is a heavy hitter, Right. So that's good simulation to a certain extent, and even without that, I think she matches up well versus Jéssica Andrade. Speed versus power, but speed also has power here. So Jędrzejczyk for the win. Welterweight fight, though, now. Demian Maia versus Jorge Masvidal. Wow. Styles make fights. Street fighting versus
I can't wait
BJJ.
For this fight.
And I've talked to a couple people about this already. I don't know why this is the fight people are going back to, because it's so Styles makes fights-ish. Demian Maia, he's not very competent as far as striking. Let's be real. That being said, he has 1,000 ways to take you down and even more ways to submit you. Definitely one of the better submission grapplers in the game. Dangerous guard, very good positionally, and you just don't want that guy on the ground with you whatsoever. That would be stupid. That being said, Jorge Masvidal, very good wrestling in reverse. Pretty strong hips, knows how to stay on his feet. With his kickboxing, street fighting background, you're gonna want to stay on your 2 feet. Duh. Obviously, as far as boxing, very solid as far as just straight right or left down the middle. He can definitely trouble Maia like that, threatening with a jab if Maia's trying to use obvious tactics to get inside. That being said, I think Maia is too savvy of a fighter and veteran to not initiate at least one clinch attempt by the cage. And from there, I think Masvidal's toast. If Maia could out-wrestle certain people that I never thought he'd be able to out-wrestle, I think that Masvidal is also free, especially since Maia has done this to bigger and badder competition, both in welterweight and middleweight. So I think that, again, like, I think the fight I keep going back to is the Chael Sonnen bout, if you guys remember that. How he was able to ragdoll one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yep.
Nuts. He did the same. He was going to do the same thing to DHK as well, if you guys remember that. And I'm like, okay, that guy does a pretty good job of staying on his feet. So for me, like, I'm looking back on what he's done lately, although styles make fights, like, and the guys he's fought recently don't nearly have as good takedown defense as Jorge Masvidal. Like, he submitted Condit, Brown, decision Nelson, beat Neil Magny. Like, I think, like I don't see why he can't do the same thing to Masvidal. Like, maybe Masvidal clips him, but I don't think we're going to see a dominant performance on Masvidal's part. Like, over the course of 3 rounds, and it looks embarrassing for Maia. I literally think if Masvidal wins, it's because he clips Maia. But other than that, I see Maia on him like glue. But I hope Masvidal comes in here, trains the jab, takedown defense on point, whether it's a judo throw, whether it's, a double leg. Like, I hope Masvidal comes correct. It's just, my gut says Maia is going to come in here with Damian Maia wrestle Fitch mentality, but with a submission in his backpack. So, Damian Maia, RNC, round 1 or 2. What about you guys?
Go for it, Brent.
Alrighty. This is, I'm really looking forward to this fight a lot. This is an interesting fight.
I think you're looking forward to the result, not the actual fight.
I am looking forward to the fight unless it goes down like you kind of say it. Well, I mean, if it goes down like you say it, well, it'll be exciting. Damian Maia gets him down, chokes him out. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to an exciting fight, hopefully, in this one. Jorge Masvidal is worlds better on the feet than Damian Maia. We know this. Jorge Masvidal has knockout power, and he has displayed that, especially in his last 2 fights against Donald Cerrone and Jake Ellenberger. And Masvidal's, been on a roll. And he's kind of turning the table in terms of mindset, and he's coming out and, really beating guys, and he's really coming out here to make a statement and coming out here to make a point in these fights. And he has. He came out and destroyed Jake Ellenberger. He destroyed Donald Cerrone, absolutely mauled him, and he did it in such an impressive fashion. With that being said, Damian Maia is not Donald Cerrone, and Damian Maia is a lot better of a grappler. But like you said, Jorge Masvidal has great grappling in reverse. So who really knows? But Damian Maia has out-grappled guys who are better grapplers than Masvidal. And he has fought guys who are better strikers, and he hasn't really been knocked out. He got knocked out 1 time by Nate Marquardt in 21 seconds. I remember back in the heyday when Maia used to fight at middleweight, and when Marquardt was still in his prime. Yeah, still on stuff. But
I'm call a spade. He was on stuff.
Likely, very, very likely. But yeah, so Damian Maia really has the tools to win this fight. I think Masvidal is the favorite, which I'm very surprised by. I almost think he's kind of talked himself into being the favorite, and a lot of people kind of believe that because of the stuff that he has talked and he has said, and the way he's been very aggressive with his words, and the way he's come out and dominated fights in his last 2 fights. And people are just now kind of starting to notice Masvidal, but he's been in the game for a while. He's been off and on in the game. He's lost really close fights to top guys, and he's kind of just been really close to breaking through. If he wins this fight, he will likely get a title shot. If Damian Maia wins this fight, who freaking knows? The UFC has obviously been very, very not adamant about giving guys like Damian Maia a title shot, even when they're well more than deserving. But, Damian Maia keeps proving me wrong. I do think his win over Carlos Condit was very good, but Carlos Condit's never had takedown defense, and he was able to get his back super easy. The only part I was surprised by in that fight was the fact that Damian Maia was able to submit him as easy as he did. That's the only part I was surprised by. The fact that he got him down with ease, I wasn't surprised by at all. I think he's going to have a tougher time getting Masvidal down than he did Condit and Matt Brown. He's going to have a lot tougher of a time. And if Masvidal can make it a dirty fight, and I think Masvidal will have a cardio advantage as well. He used to fight at 155, and he doesn't have to cut nearly as much weight as 170.
He doesn't have to cut weight at all.
Yeah, he's looked better at 170. He's looked a lot better at 170 instead of draining himself at 155. And, Maia used to fight at 185. He will be bigger, so that's going to be a factor as well. I do think Maia's going to find a way to get Masvidal down at some point. And the best thing for Masvidal to do in this fight is create distance, be in and out with his boxing, land punches when he can, try to create as much distance as possible throughout the fight to avoid these takedowns. Because as soon as it gets close, and as soon as Maia has a hold of him, it's going to be tough for Masvidal to stop anything. And once Maia has Masvidal down, I think it's very close to be all but over. Masvidal is very tough to submit as well, but Carlos Condit was tough to submit, and Damian Maia made it look easy. So Damian Maia's been on the roll. He's been very consistent, and Masvidal's just kind of started picking things up. I'm not going to be surprised if either one of these guys wins this fight, just because of the way Masvidal's looked in his last few fights, and just because of course, the role that Maia has been on. I'm going to go with Damian Maia. I do think he's going to get the job done in the second round. I think he's going to lock up an RNC in the second round. The first round will be very interesting. The beginning of the fight is going to be interesting to see if Maia's going to have trouble getting Masvidal down. If he has trouble getting him down from the get-go, he's going to be in world of trouble. Yeah. It's over. Yeah. Over. Probably in the first or second round. Masvidal's going to put him down. I really think so. But Damian Maia is just so good at finding a way to get guys down, finding a way to get people in the clinch and throw them down, like you said, against Chael Sonnen. So I think ragdolled him. I do think he gets the job done. Yeah. I think he gets it done with the rear naked choke in the second round.
Yeah, and before Evan jumps in on this, just a note on Damian Maia. Damian Maia's only ever lost to top 5 competition in either of the divisions he's fought in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marquardt, Silva, Munoz, Weinman, Shields, McDonald. All top 5 or better.
Yep. Truly one of the most underappreciated fighters of this time, I think.
Absolutely. Might be the most underappreciated. Without a doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody cares for grappling, really, which is sad. Especially the way he dominates people on the ground, and no one really recognizes it that much except for
does it sexy
MMA
too.
media.
Yeah,
he does.
For sure. So who do you have, Evan? Cool question. Yeah.
Oh man, this one's fun to say the least. Like, I'm kind of with Brent. Like, this is the fight I'm most intrigued by, but it's not the fight I'm most excited by, because if it goes how it probably should go,
it can go ugly. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. It could be very, very ugly. But this fight's interesting. I mean, again, what both you said is so on point. For me, with Masvidal, the most important thing for him in this fight is footwork. His feet can never get stuck in one place.
Oh, so he does that a lot too, though.
Yeah, and
he does. He plots.
He plots a lot.
Exactly.
He plants his
It's something he's known for a lot. Yeah.
But he stays
so staying on his bicycle needs to be in the back of his head like the whole time he's in this fight. Move, stick and move behind that jab, and utilize that head movement, and just kind of overwhelm Damian Maia in the pocket with angles, box him up. That's what Masvidal's got to do. And what you guys said for Damian Maia, I mean, this is a guy, if he gets a hold of you, it's a wrap. It's no question. I don't care who you are. If you weigh 170 pounds and this man gets a hold of you, you're either going to get wrapped up like a pretzel, or you're going to get submitted in under 2 minutes like Carlos Condit. I mean, this is a guy that made Gunnar Nelson look like me. So, I mean, his positional grappling, his submission skills, his transition ability, like Manny said, his savviness in terms of his takedowns ability, his trips, his ability to pull guard, his clinch game. I mean, he's just so savvy and so crafty. He's bigger than Masvidal, so if he does get a hold of him in that clinch, he's going to have a strength advantage. That worries me as well for Jorge. I mean, everything goes in Maia's favor here. And it really is a fight that he should win. I just have a gut feeling, and I could be totally wrong here, but I'm going to go with Jorge Masvidal in this fight. And
all right.
And a lot of it has to do, and I could totally be drinking the Kool-Aid here, but a lot of it has to do with what Brent said, and it has to do with Masvidal's mentality. I'm not sure we've seen a more confident version of Jorge Masvidal. And I could also be a little biased here. I actually saw him beat Donald Cerrone live and back in February, and I was so impressed. And, you know, I just, like I said, it's kind of more of a gut feeling than I can't really give you a logical reasoning why I'm picking Jorge Masvidal here, but I'm going to take him just because of a gut feeling and how he does it. I think, again, he doesn't have the best defensive wrestling, but like Manny said, he's got really shifty hips, great at controlling the head, makes you redirect your shot, and he just hustles, man, in terms of his defensive wrestling. He makes you work, and I think he'll constantly make Demian Maia work. And then I think, you know, he'll the footwork to me is the key. He'll be on that bicycle, he'll utilize that jab, he'll box Maia up, and I'll go game bred by a finish. I'm going Masvidal late second round TKO.
He honestly looks like he's barely trying to sprawl when he's trying to defend takedowns. It's like he's like literally looking to actually shake you off like he would on the streets. Like I remember,
it's incredible,
which is hilarious. But it's so funny because, like you said, like he plots and he plants his feet too. So it looks really ugly, and that's why you also preface your breakdown by saying that yes, you are excited for this fight, but at the same time, the fight could look ugly in the form of that's all we see in this fight. And if that is the case, then UFC knows classic wrestler versus grappler matchup, and a lot of people are always intrigued by these matchups because if the grappler wins in the way he wants to, it's going to look sexy. If the striker wins in the way that he wants to, it's going to look sexy. But if none of them execute their game plan and it looks like that, then oftentimes people are very, you know, dissatisfied. A lot of people don't want to see that and just want to see, you know, technical mastery of what these guys do. That's not always the case. Styles makes fights, and oftentimes we see these kind of styles counteract each other, and we'll see if that happens.
The stakes couldn't be higher for this fight. I mean, barring George St-Pierre, that whole wild card that is him. I mean, the winner of this fight, barring any injury, you know, should probably get ready for July, August, September, and get ready for Tyron Woodley. There's a lot of
that's so ugly.
As well.
Because like we know both these guys lose to that. But well. You're right.
Evan's point really is like exactly how I feel too about this Masvidal fight. It's like just because of his mentality, I almost want to pick him. Just because of his mentality, he is so confident in everything. Like he wore all black. He wore all black to the. I mean, not like to this level. He is, but just like he's always been confident, but not like outspoken like this. And coming to the press conference dressed in all black, and Ariel Helwani's like, "Hey man, what's up with the all black getup?" He's like, "Oh, this is premeditated murder." I'm like, "What? Excuse me?"
But that's a kind of where he comes from, right? Because he's a street fighter.
It's great, and I love hearing it. And I'm actually really rooting for Masvidal as much as Demian Maia deserves a title fight, and he really does. And if he loses this fight, it'll kind of be similar to like a Jacare Whitaker kind of thing, where Jacare should have gotten that title shot a long time ago, and then he loses to this up-and-coming guy. I could almost see it happening like that. I just kind of have a feeling, like Evan said. I'm going to go with Maia still, though, just because. But I do have that feeling just because of Masvidal's confidence.
Okay, I feel like with this fight, though, like Masvidal, ever since maybe his return to welterweight, like when he beat Cesar Mutanch, I feel like he's making the most out of the spotlight, which he was never really able to do before because he was always stashed on undercards and stuff like that. And we can see a little bit more of his personality lately, which I appreciate because as a fight fan, we know that the sport can't, quote-unquote, be ran as a sport properly because a lot of what happens is what casuals want to see. And Masvidal showing people that he can be marketable in that respect is hilarious. So let's go. You know, like I want to see more of that thuggery, and a part of me hopes he pulls it out because I really like his game. Anyway, featherweight bout: Yair Rodriguez versus Frankie Edgar. And this might be Frankie Edgar's last straw as far as a meaningful title eliminator type fight to a certain extent. I think it's safe to say if Yair beats Frankie Edgar, he's auto-shotting at Aldo.
Or Holloway,
100%.
whoever wins that fight.
And I'll tell you right now, if he beats Frankie Edgar, and who, regardless if Aldo Holloway wins, it's probably gonna be the Yair versus the winner of that in Mexico.
And to be fair, I don't know why I said that. I'm an idiot because I actually have Holloway beating Aldo. As crazy as it sounds.
Right.
Yeah, because like Aldo's hands are so trash, man. I'm sorry. No one could say that Aldo is top 5 boxers in all of MMA. I don't think anyone could say that. Like his kickbox, like he's just super athletic, very good kickboxing, very good leg kicks, very good takedown defense, and that archetype's very good for that division. If for many years that the Frankie Edgar was the second best fighter in that division, because Aldo was a perfect counter to that. But that being said, Edgar versus Yair presents a different style of takedown defense as far as he has to be way more reliant on spacing better, because I don't think his technical counter wrestling is as good as Aldo's. On top of Aldo's, soccer background, he was just very, very savvy on his feet. And Yair is too, being a Taekwondo black belt. I would know as one myself. That being said, Yair has these like long, wiry limbs that if Frankie grabs a hold of properly, could like work for a single and or double ankle pick style even. But I think that Yair's jab's going to be on point this time. I think he's going to use his spacing and he's just going to pop that in his face properly. Maybe a few kicks here and there as far as push kicks, but he really can't overcommit to anything too flashy. Wheel kicks, even roundhouse kicks, none of that, because you're in a potentially 3-round barn burner with Frankie Edgar. I think Yair wins if he wants to by fighting as safe as possible. If the finish is there, go after it. But Frankie Edgar is going to do what Frankie Edgar tries to do to everyone he's fought. And that's literally get inside, use his hand speed, use his quickness, athleticism, try to get in via takedowns or just, good feints, that kind of stuff. Set up takedowns when he can, steal rounds, and that's pretty much it. Frankie Edgar kind of approaches everyone the same, I feel. But I think the blueprint to beat him is out there. Yair kind of has the frame to do it, but I just don't think he's technically as good as Aldo at it. So I think Yair is going to have to be very frenetic with his striking here as far as the boxing is concerned. And I hope he's improved in it immensely. And I'm going to say he's going to show it, but it's also a fight that I can see Edgar easily winning in. I just hope it's Yair. I might be being hopeful, but I got Yair by unanimous decision.
All right, fair enough. I think this is a really good fight in terms of styles make fights, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Frankie Edgar deals with that spacing that Yair is going to create, because he's obviously going to create it. He's got a reach advantage, not a huge reach advantage, but he's got a very big height advantage, and
which makes a reach look hella crazy.
He's going to kind of look like how John Jones looks against light heavyweights with how long his legs are, and how he's going to likely use his kicks to create distance the way John Jones does. And he's going to be very creative in that way. And if Frankie Edgar cannot get inside on Yair, it could... I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to look like the BJ Penn fight, because I think, that was so free. That was so simple. Like, that was easy.
Free.
All day
so
long.
Free.
That was so easy for Yair to win that fight. BJ Penn obviously past his prime. Obviously hadn't fought in a long time. That was so easy for Yair. Like, it wasn't even close. Obviously, it's not going to be that easy, but it could look somewhat similar just in terms of Yair being able to create distance if Edgar's not able to get inside. And he's going to be very creative with his kicks. He's going to mix it up so well. He mixes things up incredibly on the feet. Absolutely incredibly. And it could be a big problem for Edgar if he's not able to get inside. But Edgar's very fast. Is he faster than Yair? I don't know. I would say he has better technical boxing ability, but if he's not able to get inside, that's not going to really matter. Edgar has been susceptible to kicks, But Yair, like you said, does not have Aldo takedown defense. And he hasn't really been in high-profile fights like this. The most high-profile fight he was in was against an over-the-hill BJ Penn. And he thrived in the moment and absolutely destroyed him. But like I said, it was a gimme fight. So, Frankie Edgar has not lost to anybody at 145 aside from Jose Aldo. Anybody. And it's just because, once again, styles make fights. Jose Aldo is better just about everywhere in terms of, he's not a better wrestler, but his defensive wrestling overpowers Edgar's wrestling and his ability to mix it up.
It's the best counter wrestling in ever.
In the sport I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think it is. I've never seen somebody shake off takedowns as easily as Aldo does.
Yep. So
anyone who's a wrestler is screwed against Aldo. With that being said, Yair doesn't have that takedown defense. He does have those long limbs. If he uses them right, it will work very well in this fight. But if he doesn't use them right, Edgar's going to grab one of those things whenever he wants and throw him down. And he's, has very good top control, has very good grappling, and he could be able to grind Yair out for 3 rounds. I don't see Edgar finishing Yair at all. The only way, actually, I don't know if I see Yair finishing Frankie. Frankie's chin is unbelievable, and his will is unbelievable as well. But I am going to go with Frankie Edgar in this fight. I do just think he's a veteran of the sport. He's been here, he's done that. He's fought guys with way higher profile names than Yair. He's been in this sport for so long, and he's been in the spotlight for so long. This isn't going to affect him at all. I'm not sure how it's going to affect Yair. And it could affect him in a good way. I'm not going to say that I think that Yair is going to come out and completely blow his wad and not do well at all because of the spotlight. He could shine. I don't know how he's going to do in the spotlight, and because of that, I think a savvy veteran like Frankie Edgar and somebody who is a lot of people have discounted because of the loss to Aldo, but he's still a top featherweight. He's just not beating Jose Aldo anytime soon.
I'm sorry, you had to say blow his wad. I'm just lolling right now.
But I just don't. I don't think Frankie Edgar is going to lose this fight. Jumping from an over-the-hill BJ Penn and Alex Caceres to Frankie Edgar is a huge jump in competition. And especially on this card at this time of the year, it's a huge jump in competition and a huge jump into the spotlight for Yair Rodriguez. And it seems like he's been embracing it pretty well in interviews, but once we get in the cage, it's all different. And I think Frankie Edgar is going to be able to use wrestling very well. He's going to be able to get inside, use combinations. He's going to take Yair down. And I think obviously he's not going to gas. I don't think Yair is going to gas either, but Frankie Edgar has better cardio, he has better wrestling, he has better boxing, and I think he can get inside and really put a lot of pressure on Yair. And pressure is going to be key for Frankie Edgar in this fight as well, because if Yair can't create distance, he can't win this fight, in my opinion. So I've got Frankie Edgar by unanimous decision.
All right, Evan.
Evan, you're up.
I'll keep this short and sweet, man, because you guys, I think, hit everything perfectly there with that breakdown. Honestly, amazing job by both of you guys.
Thank you.
But this fight really, to put it simple, it comes down to space. The more space Yair has, the worse it's going to be for Frankie Edgar. Yair, this is a guy that throws 360 jump kicks and makes it look like it's throwing a jab. His striking is just so dynamic, so unique. And this is an intriguing fight because it really is kind of a changing of the guard type of fight. If Yair wins this fight and he wins impressively and he finishes Frankie or he dominates him for 3 rounds, just outclasses him, obviously he's probably in line for a title shot as we just talked about. And then Frankie Edgar, a win over Yair, would show people, hey, the answer is still relevant. But this fight's tricky for me. Yair, as Manny pointed out, his counter wrestling worries the hell out of me here, especially going against a guy with Frankie Edgar's wrestling ability, his timing, and primarily his pace as a grappler from that top position. Yair's boxing, while it looked good against BJ Penn, like Brent pointed out, BJ Penn, you got to take that for what it is at this point, unfortunately, and that's coming from someone that used to view BJ Penn as a god. So there's a lot of things that worry about this fight for me for Yair, but I think I'm going to go with him here in this fight. I think he keeps the space. He utilizes the reach. He utilizes the jab, as Manny says. I think he's scrambly enough to where if Frankie does take him down, he'll be able to get back up to his feet. I think Edgar will have a little bit of a tough time controlling him, but I think ultimately Yair has that space to work with, and ultimately he gets a decision here.
That's a thing, too. We can talk about takedowns, yes, but it looks so... it doesn't look so dominant when someone has good scramble ability. Right. I don't also believe that as good as Frankie Edgar is at takedowns, I don't think his top position grappling game is amazing. I think he's struggled to keep people down. His ground and pound ability hasn't been great. It's just he's the type to outwork you on the feet for 4.5 minutes and then take you down with 30 seconds left to go. That's typically how he fights. So if he has close rounds with Yair where they're struggling for spacing and he is able to take Yair down, or Yair's basically able to shut those takedowns down, that might be how the fight is. And who knows, that if it is that, it's definitely going to be very chess match-like, which is really interesting because both these guys kind of fight to how their body types are. So that's really cool for me because it's just cool to see, dynamics like that as far as physiques go at it in the same division. And I think it's going to be beautiful. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. But I'm hoping Yair pulls it out because I don't know about y'all, but say Aldo does beat Holloway.
And then Edgar wins this fight.
Do we have to see this Aldo again?
That's what I'm saying.
No,
So,
please no.
Yes.
Yeah,
Please
I think
UFC.
I think Evan had a really good point about the changing of the guard,
Yeah.
and Manny had a really good point about Edgar could struggle a lot to keep Yair down because he is so big and because he is so lanky.
he's going to have a rubber guard or something, or a butterfly.
He's going to have something. And Edgar, he's a lot smaller. He is. And I'm going to pick... I'm going to keep my pick. I am going to root for Yair Rodriguez as well. I would love to see him get in that title mix at 145. He has all the potentials to be a star in the division and a star in mixed martial arts in general. I would love to see him win this fight and kind of see the changing of the guard. It's a big step up in competition. If he wins this fight, my God, title shot immediately. Go ahead, let's do it.
Yep, without a doubt. That'll be fun. Anyway, and whether it's against Aldo or Holloway, it's a lit fight. Can't go wrong with either of that. So who knows?
100%.
We'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the future of the featherweight division with or without Conor McGregor. Let's see. Middleweight bout kicking us off on the main card. Krzysztof Jotko versus Dave Branch. Dave Branch back in the UFC, but he is in tough here versus Krzysztof Jotko. Krzysztof, very, very savvy kickboxer out of Phuket, Thailand. If you guys are familiar with the team over there, obviously,
yes,
very dangerous. As far as technical kickboxers for the most part. But of course, he primarily trains out of ATT as well as his Polish team too. I think he's a very. I think he's potentially an underrated fighter in this division, and that's scary because middleweight is pretty stacked, right? He made Talos Slatas look like light work, and I think Dave Branch, albeit a good submission grappler himself, and striking. If he doesn't get, if he's not on top of Cristo at any time, he should lose this fight. It's just a matter of if you think you get him there. But it's funny because Dave Branch versus the grapplers will kind of just out basic strike them to death, kind of like he did versus Vinny Magalesh. So who knows? And this is also interesting too. Dave Branch is also coming back down to middleweight for this bout. He was in light heavyweight for a few years in in World Series of Fighting. So just keep that in mind, guys. But honestly, I see Krzysztof outpointing him on the feet. As long as this fight's standing, he should win this fight. Is how I feel. And I don't think Dave Branch's the greatest wrestler to be able to get this guy down. And if you're training at ATT, you're going to have some takedown defense. So Krzysztof Jotko for the win. I'm going to say via decision, but who knows? It could be a highlight reel stoppage. We'll see. Who do you guys got?
Yeah, I actually do agree with you. I mean, Dave Branch was the champ in the World Series of Fighting in light heavyweight and middleweight.
What's that saying?
No, it's really not saying too much. He defeated some decent guys, but I mean, the best guy he defeated was Yushin Okami, but over the hill. So aside from that, he beat Clifford Starks and Vinny Magalhaes. And
Clifford Starks, yeah.
Yeah, so most of the guys he beat, nothing too impressive. His last loss was to Anthony Johnson in 2012, which is
he beat Paulo Filho too. Damn, no, he beat some names, bro. He beat some names. What am I saying?
Oh yeah, jeez,
totally. Yo, he beat JT Money. Damn, unreal. Oh,
anyway,
that's funny.
So he's looked very good, and it's good to see Dave Branch getting back in the UFC after his short stint before. And I do think he's a better fighter now. I think he's a more complete fighter now. With that being said, we've seen a lot of guys go out of the UFC, not just go out of the, but when they do really well in another organization, and then they come over and then they fight somebody like Krzysztof Jotko, who is a really good striker, really dangerous up-and-coming guy in the middleweight division, just hasn't really had that spotlight fight yet against somebody who's really good in the division. I just think this spells trouble for Dave Branch. I don't think this is a great matchup for him. I think he loses a unanimous decision, and I think Krzysztof Jotko, I don't think he makes it look super easy. I think Dave Branch will give him a tough time. He's going to try very hard to get that fight in the clinch and get that fight down to the ground where he will have an advantage. But I've got Jotko. I'm going to go with a unanimous decision for Krzysztof Jotko.
Evan.
Yeah, I'm right there with both of you guys, man. You said it perfect. I like Jotko. I think he's a really underrated prospect. I think he's shown a lot of progression, primarily in his fight with Talas. And like Manny said, if Dave Branch can't get this fight to the mat, it's going to be a real problem for him. Again, I like Jotko a lot. I think he's a guy to keep your eye out on in that middleweight division. I know it's stacked, but he's a guy in the next year or two could really be talking about as a contender. Kind of in the same way we saw Robert Whittaker rise. I think he could kind of do a similar rise. I
agree 1,000%.
Yeah, sure. So I like this kid a lot.
So stacked right now.
It's so stacked. It's a rich,
and all of these guys beat Bisping.
Yeah, they've all beat the champ.
They all would. Yeah, or have.
Throw Krzysztof Jotko in there. I would pick him against Bisping
for sure. So free. Oh man,
it's ridiculous.
But I'm right there with you guys. I think he keeps on the feet. He pretty much just kickboxes Dave Branch to hell and wins a decision and keeps his rise going, hopefully into a serious title contender in 2017 and beyond.
Can't. Yeah, I'm trying to pick scenarios for how Branch wins, and I'm just trying to. I'm struggling with how he gets him down on the ground. It's just like if he knocks him down.
It will likely be a boring fight.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah. I hope Krzysztof comes in here with that ATT takedown defense. I hope him and Jędrzejczyk both do it. So we'll see. It's funny because you got Polish people out here at ATT. What is this? Are they taking over?
Right.
It's the takeover, man. We're not here to take part. We're here to take over Polish edition, man.
Yeah.
Polish edition.
That's what's up, Shout outs to Poland. They're doing their thing MMA-wise, but not so much KSW. I don't really mess with KSW because they fix fights. I'm not sure if y'all have been watching KSW over the years. There's some sketchy fights that happen over there and stuff. I think it was James Thompson versus Mariusz Pudzianowski 1. If you remember that fight, it was
just sounds awful.
It was a rubbish decision between the world's strongest man and UFC hack James Thompson. Oh god, yeah, no, there's some funny stuff that has happened in that league. But it's hilarious. They definitely pander to their, hometown people. That's what that stuff's about. Anyway, There's a couple fights we're going to look forward to in the preliminary cards, primarily. Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier, which would have been a beautiful fight to kick off the main card, in my personal opinion. So I think they really are banking on like a Yotko finish to kick off the main card. But to headline the preliminary card here, Poirier and Alvarez. I think Poirier, for whatever reason, is kind of, let's see. I mean, I don't know how I feel about the Jim Miller bout, to be honest. Like, he scraped by him, but it was an exciting fight nonetheless. But I can't help but think that Eddie Alvarez would have done better in that position. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Like just because Jim Miller is so shot, and like Eddie Alvarez, like he loses to who he's supposed to lose to. The way I look at him, like he lost to Cerrone because Cerrone's just bigger, and like Alvarez doesn't
distance a lot and just out kickboxed him.
Yeah, and like Eddie Alvarez don't check kicks. Yeah, that just makes sense. Eddie Alvarez lost that fight. Conor McGregor.
A lot of people are kind of about the Conor McGregor fight. A lot of people are kind of discounting Eddie Alvarez because of that, but my God, could you pick a worse matchup for the guy?
Yeah, like you're facing a guy who is a better boxer and has better hand speed. So of course,
and has the reach advantage, a big reach advantage.
There you go. So like, of course, Eddie Alvarez lost there. But you think about the fights that he's won in. Like we're talking overachieving. Melendez, Pettis, RDA, all former lightweight champions of the world, and Eddie Alvarez, like he was more than competitive versus each of those guys and knocked one of them out. And to be honest,
Pettis fight. I remember the Pettis fight and the Melendez fights weren't the best. I mean, he scraped by on those. The RDA fight was great though.
It was free though. It was so free. And I look at Poirier. I'm like, Poirier is a very frenetic striker when he wants to be. I think he's very talented in various facets of the game. Like he has some savvy submission grappling skills to a certain extent, but as a kickboxer, he hits hard. He's technically good, but he does have a tendency to brawl. And I don't think you want to do that with Eddie Alvarez.
No.
And I would pick Eddie Alvarez to win out in those situations. I'm like, if the way I look at it, if Korean Zombie can out-brawl you, I got Eddie Alvarez doing the same thing in that situation. That being said, I think Eddie Alvarez can even outbox Poirier, as sad as that is. God, I'm picking Eddie Alvarez to win a close decision, but I don't like my pick, if that makes any sense. Poirier does have more ways to win, yes, but it's just, I like after seeing the Miller bout, as exciting as that was, I'm like, yo, I would have picked Eddie Alvarez all day in that. So I got Eddie Alvarez for the win.
Alrighty. Evan, let me hear you break it down.
Oh, this one's tough, man. Eddie Alvarez, like, this is a hell of an opponent, like you mentioned, Brent, to give him in his return after that loss to Conor McGregor. I think the pocket is basically his death sentence here in this fight against Dustin Poirier, sitting in that pocket with Poirier and slinging leather. Probably not the best idea for Eddie Alvarez, but there's also me that kind of thinks we're going to see a throwback Eddie Alvarez here in this fight, and this fight's just going to be a barn burner and just a brawl. And I don't know if that really favors Eddie or doesn't favor him. Like, this is a fight I'm so split on because both these guys they're so hit or miss at this point in their career.
Yes,
and they're at such a they're at such a crossroads. Like Dustin Poirier, this might be his last chance of being a significant title contender. And Eddie Alvarez, you lose this fight, that's two losses in a row after you lost your belt. You're an aging fighter. Where do you go from there? So it's like there's so much on the line for both these guys. I'm going to go with Manny. I'm going to go with Eddie Alvarez. I think Poirier, like, he has more tools to win, as Manny pointed out, and he should win this fight. Physically, he's got more skills as well. He's bigger. He's got more reach. But I think Eddie Alvarez, with Mark Henry in his corner, I think you see him utilize a good jab, utilize that dart a lot as well, switch stances, utilize a lot of feints to set up his takedowns, and I think he can outbox Poirier while also out-wrestling him and controlling him on the cage. So I'm going to go with Eddie Alvarez by decision, but this is another pick'em fight and really a lot on the line for both these guys. They both got a lot to lose here in this fight come Saturday night.
Yeah, as far as the stuff, per se, and I keep saying that word, like as far as the tools that Poirier possesses, man, is he a bad game planning fighter.
He really is
awful. Like, it's just like I never know what he wants to do when he is fighting someone. It's just like, what was that? It's so funny because I remember back when Max Holloway was such a raw talent 5 years ago, and when he tapped Holloway, he literally had to resort to the ground because he wasn't expecting Holloway to be that good as far as a striker at the time. Obviously, Holloway's world's better now. And I'm like, did you not do your homework on dude? Because, like, even I knew, as, like, a predictor back then, we knew that Holloway was a bad dude. So, I look at Poirier, and every time Poirier fights someone, he's like, I feel like he feels like he's literally shocked when guys can take his best shot and are as good in certain aspects on the feet. It's just funny to me.
And that doesn't bode well going against a guy like Eddie Alvarez.
God, no. So, like, when you said...
Who recovers like Wolverine. So.
Yeah. So, when you said that Eddie Alvarez, like, you're not sure if it bodes well for him to brawl versus Poirier because Poirier, like, hits hard and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, like, I think Poirier feels the exact same way about himself, but we'll see.
That's true.
Who do you have, Brent?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I got Eddie Alvarez in this fight. I think Poirier is one of the more talented fighters in the lightweight/featherweight division. He just, like you said, he goes in there and he brawls. He gets caught up in the moment. For instance, like against Michael Johnson, I know he got caught early in the fight, but
funny.
It was because Dustin Poirier talked so much going into that fight, and then Michael Johnson put his ass down so early. But just he goes in there, he's careless, he leaves his chin up, he stays in the pocket when he could, create distance, mix up his kickboxing with leg kicks and combinations on the feet, and he doesn't. He stays in the pocket, and he gets clipped. And if he does that against Eddie Alvarez, I think matching up Eddie Alvarez's chin against Dustin Poirier's, I think Eddie Alvarez has better recovery. Both of them are susceptible to being hurt on the feet pretty easily. I'd say Dustin Poirier is a better jiu-jitsu practitioner. So if he hurts Eddie Alvarez and Eddie tries to take him down, he could snatch up a guillotine or something like that. And Poirier is pretty crafty on the ground. So there's always that. But I just think that in terms of if Poirier turns his fight into a brawl, which he probably will because he's classically known for that, and it's great. I love watching Dustin Poirier fight. He's always in exciting fights. But he doesn't reach the potential and the plateau that he should be at because he decides to brawl in fights and because he kind of throws away game plans. And he likely will do that against Eddie Alvarez. I think Eddie will take advantage. I think Eddie will take advantage of the in the pocket fighting, which will likely happen in this fight. They're both going to stay in the pocket and throw bombs, and I think Eddie will be on top, even though I don't believe he does have the reach advantage. I know Poirier has a height advantage. I've got Eddie Alvarez in this fight. I think they'll fight in close quarters most of the fight. I don't think Poirier is going to come with the best game plan. I think Eddie will come with a better game plan, and I think this is just going to be a barn burner, and I think Eddie gets the job done. And he'll probably welter Poirier later in the fight and TKO him, I'd say early in the third round. But I think this is going to be an awesome fight while it's going on.
All right. That's what's up. So, for the most part, guys, that is the bulk of our preview for UFC 211. That is going to be an amazing card. Wouldn't you guys say?
It is. It is. I'm very excited for this sucker.
It's weird.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird because there's these cards that are scheduled that you're like you see a lot of star power on that are you're excited for, but in retrospect, it wasn't a good card and the matchmaking wasn't all great. But here,
UFC 208, for instance, when you had Jacare and Tim Bosch, and then you had Glover Teixeira against I can't remember the dude's name, and Anderson Silva, Derek Brunson. Good names, bad matchups.
Yeah, I mean the matchmaking wasn't great, and here I'd say the main card has all pretty compelling matchups. There's not a fight there I'm not looking forward to, and I'm at least interested in the end result because they could end in a number of ways, and they aren't all that unlikely, if that makes any sense, except for maybe Maya Masvidal, because that has the most susceptibility to being ugly. But Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, like I don't think you can say enough about that fight. That could be fight of the night, if not fight bonus of some other sort. So we'll see, guys.
Also keep that eye out for, like we said, the first fight, JDS and Stipe could be fight of the night too.
JDS and Stipe, yeah, that's obviously tough. So
there's a lot of possible fight of the nights on this sucker.
Quickly before we end off, like I guess we could start with you, Evan. Which fight are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, that's a hell of a question. I think I'll answer this with two answers. The fight I'm most intrigued by is Masvidal Maia. The fight I'm most excited for is probably Yair Edgar.
Cool. Brent?
I actually agree with Evan. If I had to pick and break it down to one, even though it has the potential to be an ugly fight, I got to go with Maia and Masvidal. I'm really excited for that fight. I'm really excited to see what Masvidal has to bring to the table against Damian Maia. If he can stifle his takedowns, he's supremely confident going into this fight. And, Damian Maia has been on a roll. This is going to be an awesome fight. Title eliminator. Also, the featherweight fight's amazing. The championship heavyweight fight's amazing. And even the Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier fight's amazing too. These are all going to be awesome fights. But if I had to pick one, I would say Maia and Masvidal.
All right. Now, the reason I'm not going to say that fight, although I do respect where you guys come from, is because I know there's a lot on the line there for Maia and Masvidal, right? Like, let's be real. That has title implications for it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
100%, yeah.
Either of those guys, for me, just get bodied by the champ right now. And that's why I don't care too much for this fight.
I think Maia gets bodied by the champ. I actually think Masvidal has a bit more of a chance.
It's just like...
Just because of his boxing skills.
I get that. It's just like... I think he gets wrestle-fitched. That's just how I feel versus...
The thing is, too... The one thing you got to think about, too, against Tyron Woodley is cardio. Because Tyron Woodley's... If he fitches him, if Tyron does... He's probably going to gas at some point in the fight, and Masvidal's not. And later in the fight, that could pose a big problem if Tyron doesn't finish him
it's
early.
It's not like Masvidal looked great versus Bendo. So, that's just how I feel about that.
That was at 155, though, wasn't it?
No, that was 170.
It was? Oh,
yeah, that was 170.
It was on, 2 weeks' notice, though.
No.
Yeah, that's also true. Man, Bendo was pretty active at the time, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, super active.
He was.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of Maia and Masvidal getting bodied, the wrong guy to ask about that because I think Tyron Woodley is so beatable. But yeah, if we're being real, both those guys are going to have a difficult time with the champ, no question.
Yeah, it's just, if anything, while the champ is, while he lacks a lot of things technically, I feel like he's just so much more athletic than the next guy in that division besides Lawler. And, I really do believe his physique is just, it's just, hard to deal with. It was like dealing with Brock Lesnar, but in the welterweight division, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great, correlation, honestly. I think
it's just, he ain't that good.
Perfect, as you can say.
It's just,
exactly.
You're literally fighting with someone who's, 10 times more athletic than you. And that sucks. Exactly. And he hits like a truck. He
usually has about 20, and he has 20 pounds on most guys, dude. I mean, that guy is enormous for 170.
And it's funny because his MMA wrestling ain't that good either. It's just he's just big. So
nothing about his game is that good.
Oh God! So that
it's like his like we said, his athletic ability.
Yeah.
His athletic ability is probably one of the sole reasons he is champ, and his knockout power.
And because he's a favorite versus just about every fighter in the division, that's why I'm not really compelled by anything welterweight wise right now if it has that kind of implication on it. That being said, if I could pick a fight that I'm most excited for, visually speaking, it's Dustin Poirier versus Eddie Alvarez, although there's probably not much that they're fighting for as far as the title picture, I would think, for either of those guys. Or maybe Alvarez if he wants to reassert himself, or I'm not sure how many fights left he has on his contract or whatnot. But I'm also actually really excited for Joanna, because I want to see her actually put on a show.
Same.
I really want to see that. I think that's going to be an interesting performance to see where she lands on people's pound for pound lists if they want to do, women and men together, because she is that dominant in comparison to everyone else that isn't, Demetrius Johnson. So I really love her game, and I hope the best that we see the best from her. But it should be good. Do you guys have anything else to say for 2-1-1?
Not really. I will say about the Masvidal Maia thing. If Maia wins this fight, I wouldn't be surprised at all if GSP got a title shot at 170 now.
Ew! Oh
Yep.
no!
Yep.
Don't say that, Brent. Don't bring.
Why
that
would you
juju
say
into
that?
I'm sorry.
I mean,
'cause
you're
I
not
think
wrong, but why?
I know. I don't want it to happen. The fact that GSP was given a middleweight title shot, I don't want to talk about that because as far as we know, that fight's not happening anymore. But my God, man, come on.
I think it's not happening because they realize that, wait, we have so many killers in middleweight right now, and we're just going to deny them like that? What?
Not just that, but GSP's not going to be ready till November.
A part of me says if they just threw a bunch of money at GSP, he would have said yes to anything. But at the same time, I think they also feel bad.
Yeah, well, GSP is also that kind of guy who wants to keep his legacy and doesn't want to lose fights. So he's not going to take a fight unless he's ready, or unless he believes he's ready. And we saw those recent pictures. My man had a solid belly going on.
Yep. I am gonna go away for a while. Straight up GSP. It's funny.
He's taking that middleweight bulk super serious, man. Almost a little too serious.
Yeah, too serious. Kind of like remember when McGregor took the 170 bulk too serious?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He needs to stay as far away from middleweight as possible, because if he beat Michael Bisping, please just throw Luke Rockhold in there. Please.
Rockhold's better at absolutely everything.
Luke Rockhold versus GSP. My God, GSP would get destroyed. Jesus Christ.
You know what?
I can't even think about that.
And I've mentioned this before, but the one thing I'm most heartbroken about in MMA ever is the fact that Luke Rockhold lost the rematch versus Bisping. That was such a piss off for me, because Michael Bisping shouldn't have been there to overachieve in the first place. Because he stole that fight versus Anderson Silva. Number one. That's the second fight he stole in the UK versus someone. The first one being Matt Hamill, if you guys remember that.
Oh, yeah. Let's not even go into that.
Yeah. So it's just so much fugly we're dealing with here. But, Luke Rockhold, we know, if he felt like it, could beat anyone in that division for the most part.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, and then
that's why middleweight's so fun, man.
Yeah, it's too good.
So wide open.
So OP. Hopefully you guys enjoy 211. We really appreciate you for coming through, and we appreciate our guest host for coming through. Thank you so much, Evan. We appreciate it. Where can we find you, fam?
You guys can find me on Twitter. My handle is Evs, which is EVSZZ. And you can also find me on YouTube. I do some fight breakdowns at HBomb3712. Haven't really been as active as I'd like, but hopefully going to start doing more videos over the summer. And also going to start doing some more boxing breakdowns. But the pleasure is totally mine, guys. Always enjoy talking to you guys, and truly an honor to be on your show once again. And enjoy UFC 211. If you can't enjoy this card, just stop watching MMA.
Fair play. Thank you for that shoot promo to a certain extent. Quick question though, what does 3712 mean?
So at the time, that was the total amount of fights that Dan Henderson had. It was 37 when I made that channel, and then the 12 was for the amount of knockouts he had via that H-bomb.
That's so creative. Cute. That's awesome.
Yeah. So your boy tried to be a little creative, but I get about 10 views every video, so lacking a little there in terms
hey, it's all good.
We're far from our prime as far as our prediction. Yeah,
basically our podcast gets maybe 10 views a video if we're lucky, so it's all good.
It's all good.
And where can we find each other, Brent?
You can, of course, find me at bcristelli11 on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me there. You can also, if you want to friend me on Facebook, go ahead. I'm on there as Brent Cristelli. And I'm also on YouTube, very, very briefly, as youtube.com/BCMVP11. You can find a channel there. And yeah, please do follow our Twitter account at Pure Fight Radio. We're going to try to put in a little bit more social media work than we have been, and going to create that Facebook page here pretty soon. We're just trying to get down on the details, trying to get, comfortable with this stuff, and it's been a little while now, so we should go ahead and get rolling with it. So trying to be a little bit more active with this stuff. So go ahead and follow our Twitter account at Pure Fight Radio. You'll see some decent content there, and then follow me and Manny, and of course Evan, all of us on Twitter. And Manny, go ahead and plug everything you got.
YouTube.com/Cascade Scents for anything fragrance related, if you guys are interested in that. And you can find me at
Fragrances.
Yay. And you can find me at the Manny David at anywhere else. So that's about it. Thank you again for tuning in to our UFC 211 preview on Pure Fight Radio on YouTube, and hopefully we see you soon. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks. Y'all have a great night. Thank you so much.
Hashtag YOLO. All right, guys, that was good.
Talk it to him.